Hello and welcome back to another episode of I See You. Last week I did a full episode on how I prepare to travel internationally, or just a big type of trip where I am flying for longer than, let's say, 3 hours at a time. And I am officially home from my trip. I flew in last night. I slept in this morning and I thought I might as well film a episode about how the trip went, the good stuff, the not so good stuff, because there was some not so good stuff, and how everything went, because a lot of you did express an interest in hearing about how things went. So here we are. I hope this episode isn't hectic because I'm about to take you through 2 weeks of travel. So let's dive in. So I went to 3 different places on my trip. We started out in Lisbon, and then we went to Morocco, and then we ended our trip in the Azores in Portugal. So the reason we went on this trip was my friend from college had a friend getting married in Morocco who basically said you can bring, whoever you want as a plus one, and I got to be one of the lucky plus ones that she brought. There was another person with us on the trip. So we essentially planned a full Europe trip around this Morocco wedding, and also was kindly reminded by one of my followers that Morocco is in Africa. So I'm fully aware that Morocco's in Africa, but I have been calling this trip my Euro trip. So if you hear me say that, that's what I mean. So we started the trip in Lisbon. We did about 5 days there, and I had never been to Portugal before. I did a layover in their airport one time, but that was about it. So I didn't really know what to expect. I went into this trip fully blind. I explained last week, I had no idea what was on the agenda, what we were going to be doing. But somebody in my life told me that if you go to Lisbon, you better expect to do a lot of walking. And I didn't fully believe that, I guess to an extent I believed it, but let me tell you guys, Lisbon is all hills. It is steep inclines. It is stairs after stairs after stairs. If you want to see the beautiful parts of Lisbon, you're going to need to really fight for it. You are going to need to put in the work, because that it is what it is. Lisbon is beautiful. We saw a lot of really awesome things. We saw some historic sites. We saw castles. We saw really pretty views. We did a lot in those 5 days, and I was truly exhausted. But if you remember, I was looking for a good pair of sneakers for the trip, thinking, okay, I historically know that my feet start to hurt pretty early on in the day if I'm doing a lot of walking, and I also have a history of low back pain. So I was going in thinking, okay, I need a good shoe to at least give myself the best chance of not having back and foot pain. So I did a lot of research. I asked for recommendations, and a lot of people recommended this pair of Dr. Scholl's. I honestly don't know what they're called, but they're all over my TikTok. And I didn't really want to buy a pair, and luckily I raided my mom's closet. We have the same shoe size. Thank God. We're both a size 11. And she had this exact pair of shoes, and I was like, amazing. This is best case scenario. She's already broken them in. She took the soles out, so I had to go to the drugstore and buy a pair of Dr. Scholl's inserts for my Dr. Scholl's shoes. But they were this cute white sneaker that I'm really glad that I brought, because they were very comfortable. I will say I have not had success with footwear in the past when doing like 10,000 plus steps per day. So I would say those were actually a good choice for me and for my feet. So those shoes are what I wore on my feet most of the time. In terms of what I wore, I was with people who like to dress cute, like to take a lot of pictures. So I wore a lot of dresses, skirts, um, things like that that are loose because I am really not a pants type of person. I like to feel free, and so I rented a couple skirts and dresses from Nuuly, which is a clothing rental service. Which reminds me, I need to drop those off at the post office soon. Today is my laundry day. We're doing the laundry, and then we are just giving ourselves a rest day here. So again, in Lisbon, lots and lots of walking. There was some food there that honestly I could see why people really love the food in Lisbon, but for me, it just didn't hit. I don't know what it is about me, but I was not a huge fan. It's more of a tapas culture there, so smaller dishes, but I think the idea is you order a lot with the group that you're in and you all just kind of share. The thing in Lisbon, the trend, I don't know, this is like a local delicacy for them, is sardines. And I simply could not bring myself to try a sardine. Any fish that you present to me that has an eyeball, I'm not doing. I cannot. I'm not a fish person to begin with, even if there's no head or eyes involved, but I couldn't do it. So if you ever go to Lisbon, expect to see a lot of sardines. So besides that, what I found in terms of, my pelvic floor, my back, my feet, pelvic floor did great. Okay. And in this episode, let me tell you guys, I'm gonna give it all to you. I'm gonna give you the TMI stuff. So if you are someone that cannot handle that stuff, this might not be the episode for you. But on day 2, I got my period, and luckily my periods are not bad. So I didn't have cramps or anything like that. I just had to deal with some bleeding while wearing Nuuly clothes. And let me just say, I accidentally got some stains on my Nuuly clothes, and those items have been in the wash for about 4 different rounds. And I am just hoping that they are returnable. So I will keep you guys updated on that. But Lisbon was also really freaking hot. It was probably in the mid to upper 90s. UV is strong over there. So I knew hydration was key. I knew that was going to be really big for me. And also when you're traveling in Europe, I don't know if it's like this in like other continents or, specific places, but it's sometimes hard to find a bathroom. And a lot of the bathrooms you have to pay to use them. Which, for me, I don't mind paying to use a bathroom if it's clean and it's nicer. Because I've seen my fair share of absolutely disgusting bathrooms. And, if I pay 50 cents in euros to use a clean toilet, I'm cool with that. So, use a couple of those bathrooms. There were no issues there. I will say when I went to Italy about 7 or 8 years ago, it was a whole different story for me. I always had to have change in my pockets because I always had to pee, and I would not be caught without money in case I had to use the restroom. So luckily this time around, my symptoms are great. Bladder acted super well. I think I used my pelvic wand once, maybe twice on this trip because I just didn't need it. I find that when I'm more distracted, my symptoms, nothing happens because my symptoms were neuroplastic. And that is a common sign that your symptoms are neuroplastic. If they improve while you're distracted or they improve while you are on vacation, that is a big sign that you're dealing with mind, body, or neuroplastic symptoms. Which kind of brings me into the next thing that happened to me while I was there. I have really bad low back pain. I've had it since I was in middle school, and I always just assumed it was because of my posture. I have a really bad pelvic tilt. It tilts forward. I think that's anterior, but I hope I'm not wrong on that. So basically my butt sticks out in the back, and if you look at a diagram on Google, you'll know what I mean. But it basically causes my low back to like crunch together. It actually feels like my vertebrae are crunching together when I stand up for longer than 20 minutes, or I go on a walk that's longer than 20 minutes, because my posture is just so horrible. And when I was in Lisbon, and I wasn't going to have therapy with my therapist the whole time I was gone. But me being a person that doesn't hang out with people for long periods of time. Like, I'll see my family, but it'll just be for dinner, or I'll hang out with my friends for a couple hours. I'm not used to being with other people besides my boyfriend 24/7. And luckily I had my own room in Lisbon, which was great. I could come back, I could decompress in my room for a couple hours. But there was a day where I was just feeling very anxious for a lot of reasons, and I had an appointment with her last minute that she was so kind to give me. And we were talking about how I was struggling with my back pain, and she is currently going through pain reprocessing therapy training. So you can get trained for that. I plan on actually getting trained in PRT over the summer, and I'm looking forward to that a lot, because that is what the majority of my clients and the work that we do inside of Road to Remission, like, that is something that could really help me, help my clients, but also help myself. I really want to, like, I've been free of the bladder symptoms. Everything's been going well, but this back pain just lingers. I've been to back physical therapy. I've seen various pelvic floor physical therapists that, unfortunately, like, they all give me a different, like, diagnosis. They all give me different things to work on. And so it's always just confusing as a patient. It's like, which direction do I need to go in here? And my therapist, I was talking to her about how my back has just been killing me. I don't really know what to do about it. And she's like, I feel like, or I forget how she said it, but she's like, she can be very open and blunt with me, because that's the relationship that we have. And she knows that I buy into the nervous system, neuroplastic symptoms. And she's like, have you considered that your back pain is a neuroplastic symptom? And honestly, I hadn't, because I was dead set on the fact that, no, this is a postural issue. This is a physical issue that can be fixed. I just haven't found the person to help me fix it yet. But then I started to think about it, and I was like, you know what? I actually haven't considered that before. And I started to just let it, like, she planted the seed. I let it grow a little bit in my head over the next couple hours after that. And I was like, this absolutely could be a neuroplastic symptom. But at the same time, I'm still stuck on the fact that my posture is shit. And I swear it has to be playing some type of role. So that's kind of where I was at with my back pain. But I wanted to mention it because, bladder symptoms, yes, for a lot of people, they are neuroplastic, along with a lot of other symptoms that we talk about on this podcast: gut health issues, IBS, like slow digestion, autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, things like that. It's all under the same umbrella. And to consider that my back pain that has been chronic since middle school could be neuroplastic, I think it does take time to wrap your mind around an idea like that. So I'm still letting that kind of marinate. Not really sure where I'm going to go from here, but we are definitely moving in the right direction. So that is how Lisbon went. Lisbon was beautiful but exhausting. I That's exactly how I describe it to everyone who asks, how was Lisbon? Lisbon was beautiful, but they make you work for it. So next after that we went to Morocco, and I was nervous for Morocco. Everyone in my life was like acting like it's dangerous in Morocco, so I was like, okay, maybe it is dangerous in Morocco. Well, I will say after being there, we were there for 3 days. I don't feel like there was any sort of threat to me, just given the circumstances. We were staying in a villa with a big group of people. It felt very safe. When we went into the town of Marrakesh, we were in a group setting. I did my best to, cover most of my body as much as I could because, I want to respect the culture there. So in terms of safety, things felt safe. In terms of the temperature, it was so hot in Morocco. Yes, I know that it's a desert. It was over 105 degrees most days. I felt like I was walking, excuse me, I felt like I was walking into an oven when I left the house. And where we were staying, it was a 45-minute drive into town. So we did 2 different excursions into town. And then we had the wedding's rehearsal dinner in town. So we took a lot of trips in a van into town, and the AC was not always working. And something about Lisbon, I will say, the Uber drivers there were very unwilling to use the air conditioning. And we weren't sure what that was about. We heard from some people that people in Lisbon and or more places in Europe think that air conditioning will make you sick. I don't know about that, but when you get into an Uber after being outside in 100-degree heat, like, you want some air conditioning. So we really pushed for that when we could. As somebody who gets motion sick, I asked to sit in the front of the van every single time. I'm glad I did because the drive was very, very long and it was hot. So I always, always had water on me. I made sure to really drink water. I put my liquid IV in water because I know my body, and I know that if I get dehydrated, it's not going to be good. My bladder usually does talk to me when I'm dehydrated. That's a normal bodily response for me. And I also will just start to feel really unwell. So I would drink, over there they use liters. So I would drink a 1.5 liter bottle. That would be my bare minimum. I was aiming more for like 2 liters plus. And we were just always joking that we are drinking so much water and we're literally never peeing because our bodies just need so much water. We're sweating all that water out, and we had to make sure to replace electrolytes too, because if you're not, you're going to start to feel that. So had to make sure to keep up with my water intake. Needed to make sure we were drinking bottled water versus tap because the tap water allegedly isn't very safe in Morocco, kind of like a Mexico ordeal where they tell you don't drink the water or you're probably going to shit yourself. This is foreshadowing, we will get there. But we were making all attempts to drink bottled water. We had the wedding on the final night that we were there, and it was absolutely beautiful. They had camels there, and I got a picture of the camel. I'm someone that does feel bad for animals that, aren't free. They're like working. So I was like, I'm so sorry I'm taking a photo with you and, adding to this, but it was an experience and I'm trying to be grateful for that. So at the wedding, they the staff they were trying to give the guests water, and they were saying they were pouring the bottled water into like a pitcher, and they had ice in it, and they were like, drink the water, it's safe. And everyone drank the water, and then all of a sudden we're all like, oh, well, where did the ice come from? Is the ice safe? So we all had this like, oh shit moment of like, did we just seal the deal on our fate for the next couple of days? Well, prior to that, people already started dropping like flies. It felt like every couple hours somebody was not well, and we were just waiting for the next person to be like, oh, I'm not feeling well, and just absolutely like not be okay. So had some health anxiety, I will admit, too, while at that wedding, simply because of the water situation. And also during cocktail hour, they had food out for the guests to eat, but there were flies everywhere. There were so many flies. And as a dietitian, I know better. I am not consuming food that was exposed to flies, because flies carry so many different diseases and bacteria, and it's just not something I'm willing to risk. So I don't know if that contributed to anyone being sick, but it was a thing. Also, something I didn't realize, I think it might be common sense, but Morocco was a dry country. You can buy alcohol there, but it's mostly in bars. And if you find it in a grocery store, like the guys that we were with that were originally from Morocco, and you know, they speak Arabic and everything, they were like, hey, would you mind, you being my friends and I, would you guys mind buying the alcohol? I don't know if that is something that they could get in trouble for, or is just frowned upon, or they just weren't comfortable doing it. Like, either way, I was just interested in the culture and how, you know, we really weren't drinking. They did have some alcohol at the wedding, but I really didn't drink like the entire trip. I think I did have one drink the rehearsal dinner, but other than that, yeah, some good, clean, sober fun was happening. So after Morocco, and I want to take a step back. My emotional health in Morocco was at an all-time low. And if you're an animal lover like I am, and you go to a country such as Morocco, there are a lot of stray animals that we are not used to, as at least as someone living in the United States. And seeing a lot of what I saw, I got very upset. And I feel like it did put a damper on my trip. Oh my God, I feel like I'm getting emotional about it right now. We're not going to do that. I cried multiple times about it, so we have processed that. And yeah, I will just say, if you're someone who is a big animal lover like me, you get an opportunity to travel to Morocco. It's a beautiful place to visit. The food was really good. I have no idea what I ate, but all I know was it was really good. Just know that that will be present. There will be stray animals, and you will have to deal with that. So, if you guys saw my stories, I pet a ton of cats. The villas that we stayed at had so many cats, kittens. I don't think they practice neutering there, which is a whole other story. But anywho, that's what the culture was like, at least in my observation. So that did put a little bit of a damper for me on that experience, but you know, it is what it is. I sometimes get upset because I feel out of control. Like, I can't help in those scenarios, and I just hate feeling helpless when it comes to animals. So that was the case for Morocco. So after that, after the wedding, the next day, we had a flight to Lisbon. And then from Lisbon, we were flying to the Azores. I think the correct pronunciation might be Azores? Azor. I don't know. Honestly, I heard it pronounced very in various ways. So I'm calling it the Azores because that's what we're gonna go with. So the flights, I mean, I am a nonstop flight girly, but unfortunately they did not have a nonstop flight to where we were going from Marrakech. So we took 2 different flights. The airport experiences were absolutely horrible. Going through customs, passport control, checking bags. Spent a lot of time in airports, eating a lot of airport food. So my diet while away consisted of, at minimum, 1 croissant per day, sometimes 2 croissants. Usually the second croissant had some protein on it, like a ham and cheese, but it was definitely different from what I typically eat at home. There were days where I was like, I have not eaten a fruit or vegetable today. How do I acquire one? So that was definitely a change for my body. And usually when I am on vacation, I get traveler's constipation because of all of the changes. I think I talked about that last week, and I was feeling a little bit nervous about it. But your girl contracted whatever illness that people in Morocco were getting at the wedding. Thought I was in the clear. I was not in the clear. When we arrived at the Azores, we went to bed immediately. The next morning, I was awoken with a very bad cramp in my right upper quadrant. And it was one of those scenarios where you're like, oh no, okay, we need to run to the bathroom right now. So that started a 72-hour journey of hell for me. I developed a fever. I had the chills. I had the sweats. I had like a migraine type headache. It was brutal. And like I said, like that right upper quadrant cramping, usually when you have a GI bug, I feel like you get cramping everywhere in your abdomen. For me, it was just in that spot. It felt like someone was stabbing me. And the worst part of all of this was the location where I did not have my own room. The first 2 spots I did. And in the Azores, I had to share a room and I had a twin bed, which is not ideal when you have a fever and you don't feel well. You do not want anyone to be around you. So unfortunately, I was around 2 different people and we were only sharing 1 bathroom. And the girl I was sharing a room with also was hit with the GI bug, but to a lesser extent than I was. She didn't get a fever or anything. So 2 out of 3 girls with a GI bug sharing 1 bathroom. Just imagine how that went. It was horrible. And the whole time we were joking that if you guys have ever heard of the Bristol stool chart, if you haven't, look it up. Bristol. Basically a way to determine, are you constipated? Do you have diarrhea? Are you right in the middle? The whole time we were all just joking, like, I just had a 7. Oh my gosh, I had a 6. And we would all cheer for each other as like we got closer to like a 4. It was really funny. But again, if you are a TMI person and this is uncomfy for you to hear, maybe stop listening. But yeah, that illness was really brutal. And I ended up having a bit of a bladder flare, which is not unexpected at all. Whenever I have a fever and I get the chills, I immediately clench every muscle in my body, including my pelvic floor. So I'm going a couple hours clenching my pelvic floor. So it's no surprise that a couple hours later, I go pee, and not only am I dehydrated, but my pelvic floor is angry. And so I had a little bit, I would say 4 out of 10 pain, burning pain when I peed, and for about 20 to 30 minutes after. But the thing I want you guys to know is, like, when I get symptoms like this, which are very, very infrequent and literally just during times of an illness or maybe a moment in my life where I have a lot of stress or a lot of emotion. Like if I had someone pass away, like my grandpa passed away a couple months ago, and I'm doing a lot of crying, I'm also clenching my pelvic floor then, so I'm not surprised when I get a little bit of pain when I pee. But in these moments, I don't panic. There is no fear for me. I no longer fear flare-ups. I no longer fear symptoms because I know that they are temporary. I know that they are related to the mind body. I know that I will overcome them and I know exactly what to do. So when this happens, I will start to drink water. I'll drink as much water as I can so that I can combat the dehydration element of it, which plays a huge role in bladder symptoms for a lot of people, including myself. And I will do some deep breathing. If I feel like I need to use my pelvic wand, I will use that. But in this case, I did not. I simply did not feel like doing it. And I just ended up doing some stretching, like a happy baby, some figure four stretching, things like that. And yeah, the symptoms disappeared. My GI symptoms did not disappear that quickly, but the bladder symptoms did. And I really wanted to share that with you guys because it is possible for you to get to a point where you are living a normal life again and you no longer fear your symptoms. A lot of people think that being healed from your symptoms means you will never have symptoms again. That's not the case. That's not realistic, especially if your symptoms are neuroplastic. Your nervous system will continue to throw symptoms at you. It just depends how you respond. Are you responding with fear? Are you going to catastrophize and think, oh shit, is this going to get worse? You know, is my life always going to look like this? Is this going to ruin my trip? Things like that. Are you ruminating? Are you constantly having the same thought loop? And this is what I don't do anymore. And it is possible to change your mindset and change these beliefs that you so deeply have ingrained in you. It is possible. And I want you to know that because there was a time where if I flared up on vacation, I'd just be like, oh my God, this sucks. I am so afraid that my flare won't go away. Is this going to ruin the rest of the trip? I think back to a flare I had in Italy where we were touring Capri and I had jean shorts on and I had a massive flare up because lots of reasons, dehydration being one of them, but I had so many regrets about wearing jean shorts. I was sitting on this tour bus in so much pain, just trying to muscle through it to get on with the rest of the tour because tours don't stop because your bladder hurts. You have to just keep going. I know you guys know this, but I want you to know that I was at that point in my life. That was about 8 years ago. And now my vacations look so different. I'm actually able to be present and enjoy the moment and say yes to excursions, even if my anxiety says, no, that's scary, that's change, that's uncomfortable for you. I am working on my anxiety still, but my bladder no longer holds me back from the things that I want to be doing. I'm able to eat the local food without fear and enjoy it. I'm not going to like all of it. I know that. I'm very picky, but I will try it unless it's sardines, then I'm not trying it. I'm able to have a drink of alcohol if I want to. I'm able to wear the clothes that I want to. That doesn't mean I'm not going to prioritize wearing skirts and dresses because that's what's comfortable for me. But yeah, I'm no longer controlled by my bladder. My bladder doesn't call the shots anymore. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it is possible for you. And no matter how many times I say that, you have to believe it. You could be listening to this and say okay, yeah, sure, Callie, like that just feels so unrealistic for me. And it doesn't have to be something you believe right now at this moment. I would just let the thought sit with you for a while. I think seeing people succeed and start getting relief from their symptoms, I think having that evidence is helpful for you as you start to change your mindset. I think that's why a lot of my clients start to see success so quickly. It's because they join a group or a community of women who there are people who are completely symptom free. There's people who are still on their journey, but they're having these huge wins, and they start to think like, oh, those people are able to do that. I'm no different from them. Like, I can do this too. I think that's a really big part of this is just seeing evidence that it is possible. So, that was a bit of a tangent, but we will reel it in. Aside from the illness that happened to me, and I will say, shout out to Good Wipes. Saved my life. Saved my butt, literally. Um, multiple bathroom trips per day. Luckily, once I started feeling better and I started, like, there were 2 days where I just was like bedbound and my friends were off doing whatever they wanted. But luckily, the days where I did go with them and we did do like hiking and we went swimming in hot springs and like did all this cool stuff, like I didn't have any issues until we got home. So I would shout out Imodium for that. But I'm just so grateful that this GI bug did not sideline me for the whole Azores. Oh my God, my brain. The whole Azores part of the trip. So we saw a lot of really cool stuff. I don't know if you guys saw the Instagram reel/TikTok I posted where we were at one of the, I don't even know if it was like a natural spring, a hot spring, whatever you call it, but the water was orange. And I made a video that was like, oh my God, you guys, I took Azo this morning and forgot and I peed in the pool. And like, do you think they're gonna know? And the whole pool is just orange. That video got about 600,000 views on Facebook, which blew me away, but I'm glad that you guys think I'm funny. So thank you for that. I love that. I love having humor with illnesses like this. Sometimes you just like laugh your way through the pain. And so I hope that helped some of you do that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist of the trip. General themes would be staying hydrated in hot climates. If you're living in a hot climate and you're not making the connection of like, I'm dehydrated or anything like that, like I definitely would consider that that's playing a role in your symptoms. If you're someone who notices that you have less symptoms while you're away, that's a big sign that your symptoms are neuroplastic. Just I enjoyed and I'm so grateful that I have the freedom that I do to be able to go on trips like this. Luckily, I don't have any like kids that I have to worry about. So I know that this is a time in my life where I am just really glad to have that freedom, but also just like freedom from my bladder because it used to call every single shot in my life. And I used to just scout bathrooms. And like I said, in Europe, I would really be like, where's the bathroom? Where's my 50 cent in euros? Like it was a lot of mental hurdles to go through and it took up a lot of mental headspace. So yeah, that's the recap of my trip. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions, but if you do surrounding travel, I've done a lot of episodes about travel, but if anything hasn't been addressed, let me know. You can reach out to me on social media. That's linked in the show notes. But yeah, I hope that this gives you some insight into how my trip went, the good, the bad, the ugly. I probably could have got uglier and more detailed about my GI bug, but I will save you that. I will say I was fully convinced that I had hepatitis A. because I read an article on, I think People magazine put it out, saying like people traveling in Europe in certain countries, hepatitis A is going around basically. And I looked up the symptoms of it, and it was literally every symptom that I was experiencing outside of jaundice. And then I joked the whole trip that I had hepatitis A, but I don't think I did because I was vaccinated for it 15 years ago. And apparently you don't need to be vaccinated again after you get like the full dosage. So my health anxiety did go for a whirl during this trip multiple times, but again, anxiety is something that I am going to be working on moving forward. So to be continued on that. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening to me talk about me and my life. And again, if you have any questions about anything I talked about on here, feel free to reach out. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week.